Nice to see you again.
It's so good to see you.
Did you feel any changes in your house since you're hardwired? Did anyone felt better or anything?
You
Change?
know what's so funny? We like all got a sore throat, or my husband and I had a sore throat for a few days, and I was like, if we have coronavirus, like we're obviously feeling great because nothing is affecting our nervous system while we sleep, so we can like recuperate. But
So did
yeah,
you feel anything? Do you feel sleep better? You feel any changes?
it's hard to say with the sleep
Okay.
because I've been taking melatonin as well.
Oh,
And then, like, because my son wakes up at night, I like, and the melatonin makes me sleep really hard too. But in general, just being in the house, like, we spend a lot of time in our house.
right.
So it's not just sleeping, it's just like an overall feeling of being relaxed. And
So
it's
you feel that?
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. I want to go back into how a little bit about your history so people learn the work that you've done, now what you're doing with CHD and just in general how you came about this and some of the research because I think the research is obviously the most compelling and really informs people about why we need, I mean, it causes breaks in our DNA. It's been proven, so let's move forward and decide what we're gonna do now. And also, like the fact that everything, like I have Sonos speakers, and like,
You plug you hardwire them, right?
well,
You cannot probably.
we're hardwiring them now. We completely
Okay.
took them away just because
Okay.
of the Wi-Fi. But then I had no idea that we could still use them because you could totally hardwire that. Like you could hardwire everything.
I'm just laughing because a friend of mine, I can send you the picture. She's an amazing person, and she's to be my roommate. And she's a personal trainer, and she's electrosensitive. She became electrosensitive, and so she's working in this private gym, training customers, and they have Sonos speakers, and she couldn't tolerate them. So one weekend, the owner agreed. We went there, both of us, and we hardwired the Sonos speakers. I can send you
Whoa,
pictures. Like it's so
awesome.
cool. You want the
Yeah.
pictures? I'll send you the.
Yeah, send them to me. No, I think it's so awesome because I'm like, oh, we can't use all these things, but actually
Oh, you can.
everything has Ethernet cable. You can hardwire, and like I have something called the Mirror. My husband has a Peloton. Like originally, I was like, we're getting rid of everything. I don't care.
You
Hardwiring is
don't. You
better,
just
but you
hardwire
don't
them,
even have to get rid of it. Like
right?
everything can still work, and that's what
And
the beauty is.
And I think, and not just that, it works better and
Yeah,
safer. And
exactly.
I tell people, like in December, when people were doing their Christmas shopping, the FBI actually issued a warning: don't buy smart TVs because hackers can go through those TV to all your house system and break in. And I met with a company. We've been trying to help people find solution. Like a lot of the houses, people like now the smart house, guys. That's a dumb idea and a smart nightmare, but there's actually a company that does all of it completely hardwired
That's
because
really
and
cool.
they did not know about the health effects. I came to them with the health effects. They did it because they just think it's a better way to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And my friend, that's kind of what he does too. He
Who
is
is that?
an
Sorry.
I have a friend who's an
Okay.
engineer and they create homes and hotels and all sorts of buildings that are well certified and everything's hardwired because it just works better for the most
Faster,
part.
better,
Yeah.
safer, and the hacking problem. I just posted, there was an article about smart cities. So smart cities cost us $7 billion a year because last year I think 830. I posted an article about it. I can even give you the exact data. I actually sent it to Robert this morning because of a different reason. Where is it? Just a second. Let me see, Robert. Where is it? Here. So there is story. I can send it to you. It's called. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's called "Ransomware is putting smart city aspirations on notice." So municipalities and cities are heavily investing in smart networks infrastructure, but many are unable to go to market due to lack of adequate cybersecurity solutions. Last year, at least 966 government agencies and healthcare institutions were attacked by hackers, with a total cost of $7.5 billion.
Wow.
And that's the thing. They went into this. Why did I lose your video somehow? Here. So they went into this. Everyone's buying into the smart when the cybersecurity is off. They don't have cybersecurity solution, and so people said, "Oh, I have to have my child has to have a phone. I need to know where they are." When you're actually doing the worst thing possible, when you actually enable this cybersecurity hacking, breaking into your house, whatever it is, taking all your data, and that's what you do with this wireless. It's just so dumb. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's go
You
to
go back. Okay.
you. Obviously, you came upon all this because you are EMF sensitive and highly, highly sensitive, right?
Yes, but I actually don't like, I don't like to
Okay.
use the word sensitive
Okay.
because it's not a sensitivity. We call it microwave sickness. It's microwave frequencies. And because it's not a sensitivity, it's literally an injury, some kind of physical harm that was caused to my body from this radiation. So sensitivity, it represents that something is wrong with me, but it's not. I was fine with this technology for over a decade until one day it just harmed me.
Do you think that it's something that accumulates over time, or do you think it's just as the technology advances, it just gets worse and worse?
I think it's a very complex answer to question to answer. We do know the cumulative effects, but is it also possible to be injured from one acute exposure? Yes. Is it also has to do with your own well-being? Likely. It could be that I was in some kind of a situation at the time that my body was more susceptible to nervous system injuries. There's no definite answer to this, but there's definitely evidence of cumulative effects. And I think the cumulative effects are especially important when you talk about cancer, because we know that cancer takes time to develop. And so there's definitely evidence of cumulative effect and to cancer. When it comes to other injuries like what I have, microwave sickness, the thing about microwave sickness is that it's not really one condition. It's people who develop physiological injury as a result of an exposure. But the physical injuries we see, which is with are different from one person to another. There's a study that was done on 700 people who became electrosensitive, or suffer from microwave sickness, and 28% of them had a broken blood-brain barrier, which we know can be caused by this radiation. I think 40% had inflammation, which is also we know can be caused by this radiation. 23% had autoimmune conditions, which we know can be caused by this radiation. And there was a lot of them had free radical, which is oxidation. Again, go back to the inflammation markers. And some had other symptoms of degeneration processes in their brain, which can lead to Alzheimer. Some suffered from impaired blood flow to the brain. So there's a lot of evidence of different injuries. So I think the mechanism for a lot of these injuries is not going to be necessarily the same. And so it's difficult to say what is cumulative, what is not.
What do you say to people who are like, well, I'm totally fine and I'm healthy and I'm good, and why do we need to worry about this?
Well, I think why we need to worry about it, and we know that thousands of studies showing that this radiation is extremely harmful almost to every system and organ in our body. And it's not theoretical, it's not hypothetical. We have the human evidence that this, and it is literally in epidemic scales. Those people, when they say that, the people who will be smoking cigarettes for 100 years and would not get cancer, they always, personal susceptibilities. And the fact that they're not sick yet from it does not mean that they're going to be sick and the sickness is being developed. And furthermore, a lot of people are attribute their symptoms or their problem to other causes, and they're failing to look at whether or not that's the reason. We know that a lot of children who were diagnosed with ADHD, and I can tell you numerous stories. Once the parents remove all the wireless from their homes, those children are fine, and their ADHD diagnosis was removed. And so they are kind of people who may tell you, "Oh, I am fine. My children are fine. They don't suffer from it." And then you ask them, "Do you have ADHD? Do your children have ADHD? Are you suffering from sleeping problems? Do you suffer from headaches?" And then they start to, "Oh, yeah, actually I do." And and they just there's a cognitive dissonance. People don't want to make associations, and sometimes the associations are so clear, and people still don't give any attention. One of my favorite stories that I usually tell in my lectures is I went to a conference in San Francisco, lobbying on this issue. And we spoke to the hotel manager, the night hotel manager, and we told him what we do. And he said, "Oh, that's interesting, because every time I use my cell phone, my whole hands become paralyzed."
Oh, yeah.
And it just continued to talk on his cell phone. And it's just, every day I speak to people. I have a rule. I speak to at least 10 people every day on the street on this. And it's just so many times the same stories repeat themselves. So
yeah, it's wild when people start to notice the
yeah.
issues that they actually have. So tell us a little bit about the difference between 4G and 5G. I know 5G is the infrastructure, but let's talk about where we're at now and what 5G means.
So, when you had 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, the G stands for generations, and all of these were actual technologies. 2G was 1G was talk, 2G was talk and text, 3G was talk, text, and some data. You could access your email. 4G is talk, text, and a lot of data. You can do everything on your phone, watch movies, videos. 5G is not a specific technology. It's a concept. It's an infrastructure for the Internet of Things, driverless cars, artificial intelligence, and everything or anything that will come moving forward. And Internet of Things mean that we are going to now interconnect about 20 billion more devices wirelessly. So everything in your home is going to have an antenna, microwave transmitting antenna. And so if you want to interconnect all of those devices, there's going to be more data that you need to transfer wirelessly. And for that, you need more antennas everywhere to transfer that data. And so essentially, while until 4G we're about connecting people, 5G is actually about connecting things, not people. Okay. And it means intensification of all of this wireless infrastructure, adding more devices that you need to connect. Because of these 20 billion more devices, we need more antennas. So according to the Wireless Industry Lobby Association, we're going to add in the next couple of years or so 800,000 more cell towers. And those cell towers are called small cells. And that means they're putting antennas on electric poles and other poles near our homes in zero proximity from our homes. And by that, we're already seeing it. We see the increase in levels of radiation in close proximity to our homes by thousands of times. And so most of this 5G infrastructure is actually 4G antennas. So most of those small cell antennas that are being installed near people's homes are 4G technology that is using as part of the 5G infrastructure. And if that's not enough, we posted recently about Elon Musk plans. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk has one of his companies is SpaceX, and they intend to launch 42,000 satellites to space to beam us all with Wi-Fi, wireless, all over the Earth. But that's not only it. To support that infrastructure that they put in space, they will need 1 million antennas on the ground. So the satellite transmit radiation, so we're going to be radiated by the satellites. But to connect to the satellites, we're going to connect through those antennas. So we need 1 million antennas, and actually the FCC approved their application for 1 million antennas on the ground on March 13. So there's a lot of other initiatives, and so essentially 5G is every antenna you're going to add moving forward for whatever technology you want.
Okay, this is insane that we have absolutely no control over the FCC accepting this. So we need to go back to that as well, because why is it that our efforts, even if our cities do want to listen to us as homeowners, as people who live here, and we want to say to our cities, we don't want this, why is it, and I know you covered this, why is it that they can't listen to us? Why are they scared of the FCC? What happened there? It kind of reminds me of the whole vaccine issue too. With it's like exactly the same. When the boom in vaccines happened, when they gave them absolutely no liability, it's essentially what happened with the wireless industry. So I want to talk about that, and then also I need to get into Elon Musk because how can someone who freaking is known for being an eco entrepreneur essentially be ruining the life here on earth because our plants, how are our plants going to be able to sustain all this? Like how is life going to be able to sustain itself?
Well,
Like
life is not sustaining itself. A lot of the issues that right now we attribute problems that we attribute to climate change are actually a result of this massive exponential increase in our exposure to this radiation. There are numerous. First of all, most of the studies we're doing are not in humans, are actually in animals, and those studies in animals show continuously harms to those animals. But we also seen, in the wild, there is a problem with the migrations of birds. There's admission by our own government. There is a letter by the Department of Interior from 2014 saying that the problem with migration of birds is caused by cell towers, and the FCC guidelines are 3 decades obsolete. And so our government is aware. The same with bees. The bees colony collapse problem, that is the most plausible explanation. It's the exposure to microwave radiation from all of this wireless technology. And not only we see the evidence on the ground, we actually have controlled studies that shows the same thing. And so we have evidence in humans, we have evidence in animals, we also have evidence on the impacts of plants. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know too much about Elon Musk being such a good guy and eco-friendly or whatever. People should check. Actually, this morning I was doing some research, and I found that most of Elon Musk efforts most of his companies are being funded by us, the taxpayers. So far, our government gave him about $5 billion to fund all these companies, and he just submitted an application to the FCC to get $16 billion to support his SpaceX effort. And the sentence I'm using right now is, like Elon Musk, science fiction dreams are our hell of a reality. It's just what he's just doing is horrendous, and it needs to be stopped.
So tell us about the FCC.
So the FCC is the Federal Communication Commission. The FCC is the agency that is supposed to regulate the health effects of wireless technology.
That's why they're created.
I'm sorry?
That is exactly why they exist. That's why they've been created.
No, so that's a really good question, because the funny thing is the FCC is not a health agency. The FCC is a spectrum auctioning agency. It's the agency that is responsible to divide and allocate frequencies from the electromagnetic spectrum. However, the reason they are now responsible, the word responsible is weird in this context, responsible to regulate the health effects of wireless is because legislation which is called the Telecommunication Act of 1996. That legislation took the power from the health agencies to regulate this topic and gave it to the FCC. And clearly you can imagine why, because it's probably versus a very, very strong industry lobby efforts to do that. And why would they want to do that? Because the FCC is a captured agency. There's a beautiful report by Harvard Law School from 2015 called FCC, a Captured Agency, how the FCC is controlled by the industries it's supposed to regulate. But as you said before, this is not a problem which is unique to the issue with wireless. This is a problem which is, you see it with other industries, with other problems. Essentially, our government agencies are captured by the various industries. They all are following more or less the same playbook that was used by the tobacco industry. They're basically taking over a government agency or regulatory agencies, and it's not even only in the US. They're taking over regulatory bodies around the world. The World Health Organization has a project called the EMF project. Guess who controlled it? The wireless industry. The previous person who was heading that project, his name is Michael I cannot believe I just the name Michael Rapicoli, and he was actually working for the industry, getting money from the industry, even while he was working for the WHO, the organization that the WHO say they're going to follow in order to decide what health guidelines to recommend is called ICNIRP. ICNIRP is a private nonprofit. Guess who funds it? And just funded by largely the industry, and the scientists who are there are scientists that are funded by the industry, and they're electing each other. It's like a closed club of private industry people. So really, we lost control of our regulatory body in the US and worldwide. Back to the Telecommunication Act of 1996. So this legislation not only gave the power to the FCC to regulate this topic, it also took the power from the states and from the municipalities to regulate locations of cell towers based on environmental conditions. And environmental was interpreted to mean health. So essentially, we cannot object the installations of cell towers based on environmental and health consideration. I cannot think about any other consideration would be more important to. But they took our power to object these installations.
And why did they do that? Was it because I remember mentioning the insurance piece, right?
So they did it for different reasons. So I think the main reason was they wanted to say that deploying this kind of a telecommunication system is in the interest of the government, federal and state governments. And so they want to make sure that nothing will stop this installation. This is a government interest. And I guess they knew where the objections are going to be, especially because at that time, we already had, thousands of studies showing harm. So we already knew at the time that this technology is causing harm. So we know from the 40s that this technology is causing harm. The reason we ever started learning about this issue is because our soldiers in World War II, soldiers in the Navy and the Air Force, started to have symptoms when they started to use radars. Radars, just like your phones, use microwave frequencies in non-thermal levels, and our soldiers were becoming sick. And so we've been investigating this topic since. Studies conclusively and continuously show harm. Our soldiers were harmed, and now we just force it on the whole population. And now we see the same sickness with the whole population, with our children, with adults, with animals, and with plants. And so essentially, that legislation that the Congress passed in 1996 enabled uncontrolled proliferation of wireless technology. It gave the FCC power to regulate this topic, prevented us from going to court. Basically, mostly, we are preempted from taking legal action. And that's why we couldn't bring a lot of lawsuits, and that's why we don't see lawsuits in courts. And then lawsuits actually expanded the reach of this legislation. Court ruled that not only you cannot object this technology based on health effects, you cannot sue for the damage that was caused to you by this technology, not from cell towers and not from cell phones. So people rights to sue are taking away, and that's why we don't see more lawsuits. Many times lawsuits are the reason we stop, that we expose the fraud behind toxin, but we're prevented from suing. So that is another element of this fraud. And then what happened with the FCC, as I said, the FCC is a captured agency. And there's the way we can sue the FCC or government agency is through legislation called the Administrative Procedures Act. So you can sue an agency when the agency is making a decision on a certain topic. Only then you can sue the government, and you have 60 days to do that. And on February 2nd, 2020, the Children's Health Defense, which is the organization I work for and with, we submitted a lawsuit against the FCC. We had a historical opportunity, the first in 25 years, to sue the FCC for its guidelines. In 2000... I'm sorry?
How did you find the opportunity to sue them? What is it based on?
So in 2012, the General Accountability Office of Congress wrote a report, and it concluded that it makes no sense that the FCC did not review its guidelines for over 17 years. As a result, the FCC had no option but to start an inquiry, ask the public whether or not it should review its guidelines. Every time a government take any action, want to pass rules or regulation, they have to open a docket for the public to comment. So in 2013, the FCC opened a docket for the public to comment on whether or not the FCC should review its health guidelines. That docket was open for 6 years. That is not normal because the FCC didn't intend to do anything with it. There's a long story why the FCC was forced to close that docket. And on December 4th, 2019, they closed the docket. So whenever a docket is closed and that government agency, in our case, the FCC, published the decision, in that case, the decision was no need to review the evidence. No need to review the guidelines. There's no evidence. There are about 1,000 submissions to the docket of thousands of studies. There were a lot of testimonies of people who have become sick. And the FCC just wrote a very short summary saying, no evidence, we can move on. And so that gave us a 60-day window to sue the FCC. And we have, on February 2nd, we sued the FCC claiming that the FCC decision is arbitrary, capricious, not evidence-based, and abuse of discretion.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
work, because people don't realize how important this is and how many lives that we can save because of the work that you're doing. And it really does bring me to tears because
Me too.
I just it's so moving, and you have so much passion, and your passion has inspired so many people to take their health into their own hands and at least create a sanctuary for their own home and their own environment, because we can't currently control what they're doing out there. We can only try and help as much as we can with people like you that are moving forward with the issue. But in terms of creating our own sanctuary, it's the only thing giving me hope and making me not feel like I'm going to die, and freak out. But then at the same time, then I read headlines and I want to talk to you about this. Then I read what is going on now with Gavin. Is that a real thing with Gavin Newsome trying to push 5G during the quarantine? Is that accurate? And also, what did you guys recently publish where Air 5G or something you
Air
mentioned?
gig. Yeah.
Air gig. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so you said so many important things. So I'll take them one by one. First, thank you for what you said, and it did bring me to tears too, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I have to say that despite all of this bad news, I'm quite optimistic, and I think the message is finally getting out there, and we definitely see an exponential increase in people's awareness to this topic, and a lot thanks to people to you who heard about it, learn about it, and understand how big this is, and taking steps to inform other people of this problem. In terms of what you said about shielding your homes and decreasing exposure, that is also major. So it is important. I mean, it is a big issue, and it's very tough to fight government and such strong industries and even the people, because a lot of the people are addicted to this technology. So it's a really uphill battle and a pretty big one. But I think it is important for people to know that there's a lot they can do in their own homes, in their own lives, to reduce their exposure and protect themselves from it. While we may not be able to control right now, at least what's going on outside our homes, there's a lot we can do in our home. And the most effects of this radiation are from chronic exposure from close proximity, because the radiation does drop in a square of the distance. And so people all the time ask me, well, even if I turn off my Wi-Fi router, I still will get Wi-Fi from my neighbor's router. So correct, you're still going to get some radiation from your neighbors, but the most radiation you're going to get and the most impact is from the one in your own home. Turn it off. And by the way, I was just, we are exploring various avenues for lawsuits. And you can sue your neighbor for nuisance.
Wow.
You can just go nice, tell them, listen, it's very nice that you use a Wi-Fi router in your house. I don't want to use it, and I don't want to be exposed to this radiation. So please make sure that the radiation from your Wi-Fi does not get to my house. Either put it farther away, reduce by a router that emits less radiation, put shielding and a fence between us. But I don't want to get your radiation. And the best way to do it is actually to educate them and get them on board as well. But and I did have in my life good experience. I mean, I continuously had neighbors who literally turn off the Wi-Fi router after I talked to them about this and asked them, because I told them it's affecting my health. So yeah, so there's quite a lot of things that we can do in our homes, and we got a lot of requests from people recently, and we are going to, the Children's Health Defense is going to put out a webinar on steps that you can take to protect yourself, and we'll let you know once we decide on the date, but it's going to be soon. In terms of what was about all the other changes you asked me about.
Yeah.
So you asked me about all the other bad news that we're getting.
I know.
So we have air gig. Air gig is really the one thing that scares me more than anything else. Air gig means that they're going to be able to transfer Wi-Fi and wireless over the power line. So it's not that the power line is carrying the data. The power line will be actually becoming a transmitter. So every part of that electric power line that you see will emit wireless radiation. And the reason this is so scary, this is a project that is initiated by AT&T. And the Children's Health Defense recently published an article I wrote about it. So you can go to the Children's Health Defense website and see it. And the problem
We're
with this...
also publishing it on our platform as well, which
Good.
is awesome.
People need to know.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a pretty simple technology to install. So they're going to install modems on the power lines, and that's basically enable them to have wireless everywhere and anywhere. So you really literally would not need any more cell towers. Everywhere you're going to have power lines, you're going to have this radiation, and there'll be no way to escape it. And they're going to be able to deploy it very fast, very quickly, everywhere. So there will not be, as I said, there's not going to be any place to escape. And it's especially good solution for good solutions. It provides solutions for the wireless industry to install wireless in rural areas, because in rural areas, people it's not financially viable for an industry to put big cell towers and infrastructure. So that is going to solve the problem cheap and fast. And so this is really what I believe to be a true nightmare.
Yeah, so no one can escape it. Like my husband and I talk about, okay, like what are we going to do? Where can we go to just get away from this? I mean, eventually, but then now I'm like, we can't go anywhere because they're just literally trying to cover the entire world.
Planet.
And I have power lines right behind my house. What about the people with power lines underneath?
That's the best way. So it is the best way for various reasons. So, when people develop microwave sickness, the thing is, what happens in your body, what breaks your system is the microwave radiation. Once you become affected by it, you also start to react to lower frequencies, to electricity, but not only, to anything that has vibration. That's why so many people who become sick develop noise sensitivity, and we see it a lot with children. There's, so many children now have noise sensitivity, and it's especially a reaction to the wireless. And so you start reacting to anything that is vibrational, not only electromagnetic frequencies. And so power lines will be something that will affect you as well. And so I recommend to them to go and live in neighborhoods where the power lines are buried. And now with the air gig, that is also pretty important. And
yeah. So is it something that you can request to have your power lines put underneath, even though it's so expensive and no one wants to pay for it, and that's an issue?
Well, I don't want to answer something, I don't know the facts for sure, but I believe that communities can come together and ask for the power lines to be installed, to be buried in their neighborhood. So this is something probably can be done. I know in Israel, there are areas that they did it. I mean, in Israel, every new neighborhood now have the power lines, buried. So I do believe it's possible. Yeah.
So as far as 5G, let's talk about that a little bit more. I know that LAX is putting an internal 5G system. I don't know if you've heard about this, inside the airport, which sounds horrible.
The thing is, once you ignore the health effects of this technology, which we have been doing for the past 30 years or even more, you can do anything and everything. But there is a problem. What is technologically possible? It's not biologically possible. And this is definitely not sustainable biologically. And so, they can continue and have anything and everything. Elon Musk started a company called Neuralink that they install a device in your brain that communicate with your smart devices, wireless devices. So, there's so many scary things out there already when it comes to technology. The opportunities are limitless, and the speed in which they're coming out to the market are very fast. I don't know how to say it. I think, therefore, this is the reason why I think people definitely should put an effort into shielding and protecting their homes, reducing their own exposure and usage habits. But I think we all need to start and take very strong action and support those who do take action. We're fighting really the richest and some of the richest and strongest industries in the world. And it will take us, the people, saying enough. And you asked about Gavin Newsome, and yes, it is true. So while we are, in our homes, those industries do not stop. They use every and each opportunity they get to expand their infrastructure and their power and their control. And the coronavirus is just another way to do it. The coronavirus has created a real problem because schools are closed now and children will have to study remotely. Here's another opportunity for the wireless industry. Let's now get devices. We're such good people. We want to help. And we are going to give free wireless devices to your children, especially in poor neighborhoods. And we'll give them free wireless access so they can do wireless online learning. And so we're going to install more Wi-Fi hotspots in your neighborhood, meaning small cell towers. And Gavin Newsome, that's exactly what it is, said to the government that he asked for money to do it. And a few days ago, there was a bill submitted in the House saying exactly that state will get money for mobile devices to provide wireless broadband to children so they can learn wirelessly because of the coronavirus. So the industry is going to have power now to make more children addicted to this technology, more children to use wireless devices, more antennas out there to give faster internet, when actually all of this could be done safer and better with wired internet. Yeah. All they have to do is to give internet to these people in their home for $20 a month, and they can pay for it, get it for free. Give them the same devices, but give it with a $3 Ethernet cable and an adapter just like you did in your home. And actually, that would be the fastest internet to those kids to do remote learning. So the solution is there. It's easy, it's simple, it's fast, it's cheaper and safer. But no, we are going to force those children to more wireless radiation. And the biggest absurdity of this is there's guidelines that were published by the California Health Department in 2018 about safer cell phone use, in which they say clearly that there is evidence that this radiation is causing learning disabilities. So how come we are forcing all these children now wireless technology that is causing learning disabilities when we want to advance learning?
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
It's all for money.
So we did start a campaign to stop Governor Newsom from doing it, and we encourage him to take to lead the right way, not causing more harm in addition to the corona, but actually protect our children from the corona and from the adverse effects of this radiation, and choose a safe option, which is there, it's available, and it's cheap and it's faster. Use wired internet for these harms of these children.
It's amazing that not only are you saying, no, we need to stop this because this is not okay, this is harming our children, but also here's a better alternative anyways.
And it's there.
So you have no option to say no because it's there.
And people don't know. I mean, exactly. First of all, even in poor neighborhood, most people do have internet. People have TV connection. They get a router from the company. It's the same technology. There's just if they don't have internet, give them a router that gives them the internet, and everyone can connect with the devices safely. And so the solution is there. You don't even need to do anything. Just use the infrastructure you have and protect the health of these children. And it's especially disturbing because we do know that Governor Newsom is aware of the harms of wireless technology.
Yeah,
he does have young children. Protect your children and ours.
Yeah, and he has fought in the past against these companies. So the fact that he's going against everything that he that's what's crazy. It's not that he's just unaware.
We got a lot of pushback from activists on our topic that it's not okay, this campaign, that Governor Newsome is really doing such fantastic job on Corona, which I don't dispute, and that we should not put him in pressure because of this issue now. That's not the time. I disagree. This is exactly the time. If you're working to protect people from the coronavirus, you cannot create at the same time a worse problem.
Yeah.
And putting more wireless is creating and worsening the problem. You have responsibility to choose safe solutions, just like you want to keep us safe from Corona. At the same time, we should also make sure our children are safe. And it's not time to say, okay, you know what? We have a little bit of a emergency now with the Corona. Everything and anything is allowed, including irresponsible actions. I don't agree. And, for a lot of people who already became sick, including children, what happening to other people with the corona is our reality every day. Nowadays, everyone cannot go to the street and walk and go to park because it's banned, essentially. Well, for people who develop sickness from this technology, that is a daily reality. I cannot walk on the streets. I cannot go to parks. I cannot go to stores. I cannot go to shopping malls. I cannot go to beaches because there's antennas everywhere and anywhere. And this is the reality of children. I was, the day I came to see you, I gave the lecture in Laguna Beach. The same day, I met with a family who had two girls, 15-year-old, both became sick from this technology, and they cannot leave the house.
Because going outside is just bombarding your nervous system and everything.
It's affecting my brain. I had to give, I was in New York and I have to give a lecture in a law school, and it was in a basement, and the ceiling was low, and there was a Wi-Fi router literally 3 feet away from my head. And I mean, you heard me speak. I'm pretty, pretty articulate, and it's okay. I couldn't say a word. My jaw just froze. I couldn't pronounce the word. I couldn't think. That's how it affects my cognitive. It affects my heart. My heart starts racing. I have difficulties breathing. I get nauseous. I get tired. It's a whole set of symptoms for me. And again, I'm not unique in any way. My situation is not rare. There was a study by the California Health Department from 2002. At that time, they found that 3.2% of the California people are already having symptoms. That is 1.2 million people, and that is 2002. That is before the exponential increase in this technology and radiation. So the rates of people who are sick are much higher now, but nobody wants to know and nobody wants to check, and they just deny the whole thing, which is absurd. So that reality is tough, and it affects us in various ways, and it affects different people in different ways. They want to give these devices to the children. California Health Department said, yes, there's evidence showing that it harms the reproductive organs. Then how come you give it to those children in the most vulnerable years of their life to use an iPad, put it on their legs and abdominal, when you know that it may harm their reproductive organs?
That's horrible.
It is horrible.
So what are some things that people can do at home? I know you mentioned melatonin.
Be careful.
Okay.
First, I'm not a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not giving medical advice. And I never said to take melatonin.
Oh, okay.
There is evidence showing that this radiation inhibits the production of melatonin.
We always put a disclaimer, by the way, on everything that we do.
No, I'm not giving. Yeah. There is evidence showing that this radiation inhibits melatonin production in the body. So that's why that might be one of the reasons why so many people are having sleep problems. Also, this radiation interferes with your brain waves. That's why also another reason why people cannot sleep properly. And when they do, they wake up, tired and not refreshed. There are studies that showing that when you give mice melatonin the night before exposure, they do not have the DNA damage. There's a study from 1996. That was the first study that showed that this radiation breaks the DNA. And my sentence always is, cigarettes cause cancer. This causes cancer and breaks the DNA.
Yeah.
How come we're forcing it on our children? Anyway, so the first study showed that already in 1996, and that study had a second part to it in which the scientists showed that if they gave the mice melatonin the night before exposure, it helped it prevented the DNA damage. I don't tell people to take DNA. I take people to remove wireless from their homes so their body will be able to produce enough melatonin to fix the damage that all of this radiation and other toxins are causing to their body. At night, that is when our body is doing recovery work from all the assault by different toxins. And if you don't have enough melatonin, your body cannot do that. So it's not only about sleep, it's also about recovery from damage.
It makes sense because I know that they recommend melatonin to people who are going through radiation therapy and chemo.
Okay.
So it's like that makes a lot of sense if we're being affected.
But again, I'm not a medical professional. If you ask me if I'm taking melatonin, I don't. I don't take melatonin. I do take melatonin if I know that, for example, I have to spend a day flying, which is I try and avoid doing, but sometimes I have to, and it's literally a nightmare. So I take melatonin the night before. So I prefer to let my body do its work naturally. But if I have to and I want to protect myself a bit better when I'm going to have a lot of exposure, I sometimes take melatonin.
That makes sense. And then I know that you mentioned spring mattresses.
Yeah. So these are not good because metal is a double-edged sword. So, when we expose this radiation, one of the ways to shield ourselves from this radiation is by using metal. Metal blocks radiation, but metal can also act as an antenna, and it's a complex issue. So a lot of the mattresses have springs in them. Those springs, they have this coil structure, which is actually acting as an antenna. So I do recommend people to get mattresses that do not have metal in them, do not have coil, essentially foam mattresses. So that is actually really important. And it's something relatively simple that people can do. Again, the most important thing is to turn off the Wi-Fi router at home. I say at least at night. I don't think it's enough because that radiation is causing a lot of harm during the day. And considering you can use internet by hardwiring, by using Ethernet cable to connect to the router, there is a way to work on the internet without being exposed to Wi-Fi radiation. So that would be a major thing. If people have cordless phones in their homes, they shouldn't. Cordless phone is like having a cell tower in your house, and they should go to the garbage, instead get corded phone. All of those wearables, the iWatches and Fitbits, bad idea. And I can tell you stories, so many stories about.
Is that because of the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth? It's Bluetooth as well.
So Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are more or less the same. It's essentially wireless radiation, microwave wireless radiation. The symptoms that I've been seeing most from people is actually heart palpitation. So it's really funny because those watches are supposed to help you monitor your heart.
Yeah.
But the way they're doing it is apparently messing up your heart. And the reason is because the way they measure the heart, it's a little bit complex, but I'll simplify it. They send electromagnetic frequency and they pulse it 300, 400 times a second. And that pulsation, we know that pulsation is much more bioactive. It's causing more bio effects, and that pulsation seems to be mess up the heart. And I have so many people, and I can tell you the first story. The first time I encountered someone reporting that was in a shoe store in DSW. I went to DSW, and there was a 20-something-year-old cashier, and she had an iWatch on her hand. And I said, I don't think it's a good idea. And she asked me why, and I explained her, I got sick from this, and she asked me what symptoms do I have, and I started saying, and then she asked me, do you have heart palpitations? And when someone asks you this way, something is going on. And I said, hey, do you want to explain what's going on? And she said, it's really interesting. I got this watch, and it's supposed to measure my heart. Since I got it, it tells me that there's a problem in my heart. But the problem in my heart started when I got the watch.
So she knew.
That's kind of like, and I was like, duh, then why are you wearing it? And ever since I just started to ask people who wear them if they have heart palpitation, and I can report from my anecdotal evidence is that 50% of people who wear them have heart palpitations, and when they remove them, they stop.
Wow.
So the disconnect is so overwhelming. It's so mind-blowing. I mean, it's almost people lost complete common sense.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes back to cognitive dissonance, like you said. So it's just crazy.
It's beyond, it's literally loss of common sense.
Yeah.
I
thank you so much for your work, for taking the time to be with us today. And I'm looking forward to following along what you're doing and supporting as much as I can. So I just want to thank you again and say I love you and hope you are safe during this time. And thank you for making such a difference for me and for so many people out there. I appreciate it
so much. Thank you, Nikki, for everything. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And thank you for helping us spread the word and for being a wonderful person. Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
Hey y'all, this week's episode is brought to you by Seed, a biotech company that's pioneering the application of bacteria to improve human and planetary health. They've got a huge mission and they're totally coming through. Their first product in the pipeline is called the Daily Synbiotic, and basically it's used with a proprietary technology that they came up with that has a prebiotic outer capsule and a probiotic inner capsule. And the prebiotic outer capsule protects the inner capsule, the probiotics inside, from heat, moisture, and our stomach acid. And so it makes its way, the probiotics make their way all the way down to our small intestine, to the very end of our small intestine. And that's super important because a lot of the probiotics out on the market don't make their way there, and that's where it's actually most important for your health. And so I really love taking Seed because it actually works. Taking a daily probiotic is a really big commitment to our health because we're not only spending the money, but we're actually also trying to remember to take the actual probiotics, because it's, there's so many things to take every single day, and it's super complicated to do everything that we need to do for our health. And so they've made it really easy, and they deliver it straight to your door with a monthly subscription. And they also really care about the environment. And so their packaging is all made with super, super eco-friendly products. And I really, really appreciate them as a brand and as a company, what they stand for. And so I wanted to offer you guys the opportunity to try it with me, get 15% off using code the fullest, and let me know what you think.